I don't know,
Where are you
man.
getting the fail? Where are you getting the fail? Is it
It's in the
from?
stream software. We're
Okay,
gonna
your
just
stream
jump in
software.
though
Yeah.
because social media is finally bad
Yes. Now it's bad. Now
legally.
we know it's bad. Yeah. Now we
Yes,
know it's
social
bad.
media is now legally finally bad,
Right.
and that's it. That's the show.
All right. See y'all next
Tune
week.
in next week.
Don't
Yeah,
forget to subscribe.
yeah. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Shortest podcast ever. Yeah, for folks who haven't listened to the podcast for a while, I've ragged on social media pretty hard for a long time. Nathan, I don't think you're necessarily a huge fan of it either.
I just don't
Um,
use it. Yeah.
yeah, and now California had a ruling, New Mexico had a ruling this week where they've ruled, amongst other things, that Meta and YouTube, which I thought was a little interesting, maybe we should talk about that, have intentionally designed their platforms to be effectively addictive or trapping of people in to incentivize use time. So maybe not a surprise. Hopefully, it's not a surprise. But now, yeah. So that opens up precedent for additional lawsuits and
Mhm.
harm claims. It'd be interesting to see if there'll be a class action or more going forward.
There's got to be right since this is
Yeah.
passed. I imagine several other people
That's
who have
what they'll
just
do is they'll try to
experienced them
push
similar.
it and then
Yeah.
you'll get like $20 for using the thing. If your kid died or whatever, it's fine. It's $20.
Yeah.
For people who don't catch sarcasm, that was
Yeah.
sarcasm.
Slash sarcasm.
But I mean, I don't know. It's, to me, it wasn't surprising. It was, if anything, it was more surprising to me that we actually, like, they went to court. Number one, I think that's like TikTok settled out of court. If any social media platform is like
Yeah.
guilty of this shit, it's fucking TikTok.
Mhm.
100%. No, no arguments. Instagram is a close second, which Meta owns now.
Yep. Right.
Um, and then there's all sorts of other social media platforms. They're all this way. The thing though, before we really jump in, I did think it was interesting that YouTube was jumped into there, because I like, we're obviously on YouTube, right?
Mhm.
We're on every podcasting platform too, so I guess we're on every platform. Um, but at the same time, it's like it, they don't have a huge social component to YouTube, so there is like messages. As like a content creator, I can message my people and do whatever that does, and then people can obviously comment. And then when you do like live streams,
I had no idea
I
this.
know,
Okay. Cool.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. I want to engage with the community. I just think it's weird to have like a bulletin board that you engage through it with. But live streams
Interesting.
have the chat that you can chat on. You obviously leave comments on videos. And I will say that YouTube's done a pretty good job of setting limits in the app. And I believe if you do YouTube Kids, it automatically sets a like soft continue wall that you have to like agree to
Manually need
continue
to.
watching
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
If you're an adult, it'll just keep feeding you shit all night long. Um, but uh, I don't know. I don't think they're necessarily a social media platform.
Hmm.
It's, in my mind, it's more similar to TV.
Yeah. When you go there, I think you open up you
Well, I mean, it
blur the
should be
lines a little
regulated
bit.
as such, like
Yeah.
advertising
Sure.
disclosures 100%. If I'm
Right.
like, wow, this is the greatest X ever and I'm getting paid, then I should disclaim that, just like you would on any other TV show. It'd be an infomercial at that point.
Yeah.
If you're reading an ad for a company, like we don't do that here, but some podcasts do, and that's, I don't have a problem with it. It's just then it needs to be like, this is an ad, right? And it needs to be obvious. I don't have a problem with that. When it comes to being potentially addictive, I mean, I have seen some evidence out of like YouTube Kids that it's like, because it's like an endless stream and and it's so, there's so much content that there's like a little bit of an addictive quality. Whereas like if you were really into Sesame Street as a kid or whatever, it's like Sesame Street ended at like whatever time and then something
And
else
that was
came
it.
on.
Yeah.
And maybe you were into it, maybe you weren't, but you couldn't just sit there and endlessly watch every episode of Sesame, binge it, as folks say.
Yep.
So I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, I think depending on the exact specifics of the case, and I'll be very transparent, I have not read all the details. I think
Hmm.
the idea was tech companies that intentionally design elements to their platform such that they can be addictive, not necessarily claiming that social media is bad and you're making it addictive, but it's
Yeah.
if you engineer your platform to keep people in, I'm not sure. Maybe
I mean,
that's
it's
what it is,
bad.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
they
yeah.
they they
Like the
didn't they
idea,
did yeah, the court didn't rule that it was bad, they ruled it was intentionally addictive.
right,
It's
right,
like the
yeah,
argument with nicotine and cigarettes, like, "Oh, their nicotine
mm,
has medicinal properties." Yeah, sure, so does heroin, but, like, we don't use heroin because it's super addictive. So does fentanyl. We don't really
yeah,
use
yeah,
fentanyl anymore because it's super addictive, and there's other drug and they still use it sometimes, but they don't really use it
yeah.
if they don't have to. So, like, you can make that claim with anything, and it's such a lazy argument, and it's just, like, to me, it just screams your ignorance.
Mm.
You just don't really know what the fuck you're talking about because it's like, yeah, okay,
It's like
cool.
it's like veiled ignorance, right? It's like
Yeah.
there's got to be there's no way they don't know. Right?
I don't know, man. I think that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I think
I'd love to come
that
back to that
is.
though, because I have some thoughts there. But so anyway, so the YouTube, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you should sit on YouTube and watch it all day. The auto start and the funneling of like, I think the thing that makes me uncomfortable with YouTube is that the algorithm is quite good for picking up on what you're interested in. And if you're interested in things that general folks within society would say is crazy, it'll continue to feed you more of that. And
Mhm.
so you get information bias pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that is maybe not good. And I can see where people get addicted to that because it's, it's like the conspiracy idea of like you're getting some kind of hidden knowledge or hidden information that isn't readily
Hmm,
available. Yeah. I'm
interesting.
calling out flat Earth for anybody not picking up the vibes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to your point about the recommendation algorithm, I actually do think that is on point. I can count several times where I've stumbled on some sort of like interesting music video or something that was like amazingly creative or beautiful just because
Yeah.
it happened to be in the recommendation thing, right? So, yeah, I think that's a fair point compared to uh, yeah, I'm stepping out of my depth here. I can't talk about other platforms.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the flat Earth thing's really interesting. So I don't necessarily recommend doing this. But if you search for the video, I actually tried this. I did like a private tab in the
Yeah,
video.
yeah. So that's always a fun experiment, by the way. Like just
Yeah.
open up a private and do a search, and then open up your normal session and do a search, and see how the results differ.
Yeah. See how the algorithm might differ for
Yeah,
you. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I did this and I watched a flat earth thing, like whatever. And I was like, okay, I guess for folks who don't know, there's a large percentage of people that
Like
that
cleaning the
claim that
evidence. Yeah.
the earth is flat.
Mm,
I don't know, it's not my thing. I thought that was disproved a long time ago. But and then nonetheless, here we are. There's actually a really fascinating documentary about it, where this is years old now. I think it was like 2010ish, and this was before flat Earth was a big thing, and a documentarian profile that was quite interesting, and I highly recommend it. I don't remember what it was called, but you can find it. It's old. But anyway, so it's like there's a bunch of people out there who claim to believe this. I don't honestly know if any of them do believe it, to be, But anyway,
mm,
they don't think the Earth is round, and they think it's all sorts of different stuff. And you watch one video, and you just keep getting fed more and more and more and more information, and then eventually you start to get into all sorts of other crazy things, which I would also call conspiracies.
mm.
Um,
That
and
are not strictly flat Earth. They're just sort of like
right,
other. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and some people might say that they're connected, right? That there's this grand global conspiracy thing that,
Of course, the grand unifying theory. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
But so it's like for stuff like that, that's not necessarily great because if maybe you watch a video or something, you're like, oh, okay, I don't know, and then you start seeing all these little like trails of stuff that may or may not be, and now you start to really warp people's perception in society. So I don't know that that's necessarily addictive outright, but it contributes a lot to misinformation. I think that's more of the
Yeah.
problem I have with it. Whereas like something like Instagram or TikTok, um, X to some extent, Twitter, the algorithm is designed to feed you constant content like that, but it's also designed like the infinite scroll where things just keep popping up no matter what you do. Likes, retweets, giving you incentives for when you uh, reshare something or like something. and then a lot of other people will see that, and then so there's all these different things that they claim make a better product, but the reality is they just make it more addicting, and the reason they want to keep you in there is because the more time you're in there, the more ads they can show, then which means the more money you get. And so the courts basically legally agreed with that. So it'll go to appeals and who knows what'll end up happening, but it's just nice to see once that like what seems to
Victory.
be really obvious to everyone was like decided.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, given everything that's happening in the world, it's nice to see that there's a small victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure how it plays out, but I think the idea of setting the precedent is impactful, and hopefully we're more aware of these types of things um, that are not strictly social media. So, like
Yeah.
sycophantic AI.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that. I don't know. I don't know if there's really anything more to say, to be honest. Like we've we've talked a lot about it on the podcast. I wanted to cover it because it's kind of timely and newsworthy, and I think it's make sure people are aware. Not everyone catches the news on this kind of stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Is there any other thoughts you have on that, or I'd love to talk more about? Um,
Flat Earth.
yeah, totally. There's like a whole community. It's a really fascinating phenomenon, to be honest.
Now you got my curiosity. I'm like, are you actually part of this part of the community and trying to spread?
Well, no, it's I know, right? It's like all the people who are like, "You're in the CIA." Um, it's the thing that I find interesting with flat Earth, though, is that it was just proven, like in the ancient Greek times,
And you can do
right?
experiments with easily accessible equipment now to show that it's not flat.
Yeah. Well, but what's interesting though is like I don't know if I call it the community, but I guess the community of people have all sorts of counterclaims. And this is another topic we haven't talked about for I guess a while, but like the idea behind science is that you have an hypothesis, you test it, you share the data, you validate it. It may or may not change. But then if it is wrong, the general consensus then tends to change. The problem with conspiracy thinking and a
This
lot of
never
these
changes,
other
right?
yeah, a lot of these other claims is that people will provide so-called evidence, but the evidence isn't good, or there's almost always some sort of unknowable componentry with it, and you can't test it, right? And
Mm.
so it's like the alien thing. Aliens exist. Well, where are they? They're in space. Okay, why has nobody captured evidence of one in some sort of photograph or like video? Like we have all these flying saucer nonsense things, but I want to see a fucking alien, right? If there's aliens,
Don't
show
we
them to
all?
me, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to have a sense of belief, and belief is very different when it comes to I believe the system of science given a set of criteria will produce the correct answer or the best answer of knowable
Mm.
validity at a time versus I'm going to believe something because there's no way to prove it's true, which is typically the definition of belief. And so that's where the conspiracy and the evidence and the do your own research shit really starts to break down is that it provides all of these like seemingly believable facets
Mm.
or explanations for things without actually providing credible evidence. And credible evidence being you can test it, you can verify it. Someone said, I don't know what the
Yeah,
fuck,
yeah,
anyone can say a leaked report. Well, where is the leaked report? Oh, well, there isn't any evidence of the report. Well, then it's not real, right? And then people are like, well, but they won't let you know. And it's always like this mythical they or them or this person, right? Well, do
yeah.
these people have a name? And that's not to, and then so then they'll point to things like the Pentagon Papers, right? Where there was a massive leak of intelligence during Vietnam, big, I assume everyone knows what it is. If you don't know what it is, Google it and read the Wikipedia. I don't want to explain it. But
For once.
right, but it was
Yeah.
but it was a leak, but it was an actual person and it was actual information. It was verifiable. And you kind of had to trust the media on it, but eventually it all came out, right? And then the evidence was actually presented, and um, it was, you know, legitimized, I guess. But we've erased this, like we've erase the barrier and for the litmus test of like provability and objectivity, because I don't know why, but I think it's just easier for people to just like believe whatever they want now. And then they
Yeah,
don't have
yeah.
the energy to like think outside of it, or like, and that's the problem with social media. And when they make it addictive, it's even worse, I guess, is really kind of where my mind's going on
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I was gonna say you made a brilliant connection there because I think you're talking more about people just believing in an outcome and not necessarily understanding the process, right? So whether it's
Yeah.
a scientific process or where a source came from, we're in a world where people just start to believe what they've heard and get reinforced because that's part of what our system does now, right? And social
Yeah.
media plays a part of that, where you're shared this information without not knowing where the source is coming from, or maybe it's generated and it's fake, but it gets you the engagement.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, and that's the problem too with like AI stuff now, is there's
Mhm.
so much fake information and bots and shit that it's like I don't really think you can believe anything on the internet anymore. Like,
Right.
I know everyone said it. I literally think that you cannot believe anything on the internet anymore.
Mm.
Sorry. That doesn't mean you can't like read something and be like, wow, that's interesting, and try to do some more,
Trying to find out. Right.
digging, or like
Right.
get some alternative sources. And alternative sources are getting, less and less. It used to be, the news or the media or something like that, but you don't have a local paper in a lot of places anymore. So it's like, where do you go get the information from? Go to AI, and that has its own whole sorts of other problems.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting that now, right? Because now we live in an age with inarguably access to information beyond the wildest dreams that we had in the past. But we're a
Yeah.
lot less trusting now because we have access to that information. Back in the
Yeah,
day,
no,
your
for
grandfather
sure.
told you something like, "Yeah, totally believed it."
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's interesting because we've never had it. It's never been easier to actually verify information, but at the
Right.
same time, disinformation and malformed information has never been more ubiquitous either.
Exactly.
Um, and it's it's like I get duped once in a while. It's not common, but like AI images are getting really
Yeah,
good.
they are. Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
even video, like I was watching a video, and I think it was gardening with and I don't remember where it was on. It's on some social media thing. I don't even know how I came across it. Came across it. We're watching it, and it just didn't feel right.
Hmm.
Physics were like a little off. Things were a little too perfect, and we
Ah,
started talking, and it was like, this isn't real.
yeah,
And it was like not one of these like grainy, like hard to see. It was super high quality. The audio was like pretty much perfect.
yeah,
But it still had that a little bit of uncanny valley to it. But I mean, we're so close to like that uncanny valley going away, or most people just don't realize it because you're tired after work and you're watching something, you just don't notice or whatever. And then people, you can't beat yourself up, but it's to the point now where I can definitively say like this stuff is like almost undetectable,
yeah,
if not undetectable.
yeah.
Happy
Yeah, it's kind
Friday.
of what we live in. It's kind of, don't believe
Yeah, I mean,
anything. Don't believe anything.
it's a downer, but I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like I don't want there's so many people who, try to put out that it's like, "Oh yeah, there's all these tools and stuff." Yeah, most of the tools don't work.
Mhm.
And it's like we as a society have to get back to like establishing trust systems. And like if you look at the history of humans, like for the longest time, uh, you had paper, right? And one of the really interesting, very simple things you could do is a wax seal.
Mhm.
So you give the thing to a courier, and the courier has in it this the security is that if the wax seal is broken,
Not
then
broken. Yeah.
someone's opened it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't have security of the information in an encryption sense where it's unreadable, but you can know that it's either been tampered with or someone else has had information access to it. Not a perfect system, but frankly, I mean, we still do this kind of stuff today with like sealed envelopes and stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's the future of quantum as well. It's like you can't
Yeah,
know, but you can see if it's been tampered with just by the observation of it.
yeah, and
The principle's the same. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and like, people are like, "Well, we do in-person meetings," or "We no, we do virtual meetings." Yeah, well, you can fake that now.
yeah.
So, it's like I think we actually have to go back to meeting in person again, and that'll get rid of a lot of this stuff. And I think a really easy example of this is like all this online fraud and identity theft and bullshit. If
Mm.
you had to be present to open in a bank account or open up a new phone line or something, like walk into a store and do it, most of that fraud goes away.
But that's so inconvenient,
I know,
Andrew.
right? So it's really solvable, but unfortunately, we instead of having, that in like how many times do you open a bank account in your life, right? Most people, it's
Mm,
like one, maybe two. Very few
mm.
people get more than one bank account. It's a very high friction thing. That's why your bank spends so much money advertising to you. Credit cards are a little different, but with a credit card, it's the same principle. If you want a credit card, you should have to go to the company or go to a notary. There's these people in our society,
Notaries, wow.
right, who don't necessarily work for the company, but can verify information in a legally binding way on behalf of, you know, a party. And yeah, it costs a little bit of money and those people have to exist, but it's like we have these systems, we've gotten rid of them for
Mhm.
convenience, and now they're really biting us in the foot. And we're gonna have to start going back to that kind of stuff, I think. And that's the only way we're gonna really know anything anymore.
Mm. So, go back to the basics.
Yeah.
No tech or unlimited tech
Or AI.
or yeah, one direction. Choose one. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else? Like I think we might I feel
Mm,
content.
yeah. No, I mean, I think the one of the things we talk about a lot is like the technology as a tool, and then it's more about how
Yeah.
you use it. And I think the case with social media was about how they were using it. Right, they were building something to intentionally make it more engaging and more addictive.
Hmm.
Like the platform itself, it doesn't have an inherent. Oh, I mean, maybe in this case you can say it's bad inherently, but
Yeah.
the key takeaway for me here was the ruling was more about how people were implementing it, how they were trying to make it more addictive, and that's kind of the bad piece about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And that's like the thing we haven't really figured out yet either is that like every technology, everything you build, everything you put into the world is always used in an unintentional way.
Yes,
It's just
exactly.
kind of the
That's a
law of
better way of putting it.
nature. Like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
you think that you're gonna make the perfect thing, and then someone will figure out how to do something that, and so usually it's not a big deal. Usually it's fine, but sometimes it's not fine, and sometimes you made something that's really good at hurting people, and when there's trillions of dollars to be made on that, it's really hard to turn it off. But um, the key, I think, is to not let it get that bad or be able to pull it back. But the thing that I don't want to see is things like I think we've talked a little bit about this before in the podcast too, but it's like one of the areas that we've decided as humanity is like a gated knowledge area is like nuclear physics and like
Yeah.
nuclear stuff. Not that I want everyone to have access to that, but it's like I don't want us to have this category continue like people keep talking about it with like AI, for example, where it's like it's such a dangerous technology. Well, it can be, but the alternative is it's such a powerful technology that if it's
Right.
just in the hands of a very few people, it's going to disadvantage everyone in society, and it's going to disadvantage the people who are already disadvantaged, which is most
Correct.
people.
Yes.
And that's the world I don't want to see, right? And then I don't believe
Yes.
in this AGI and general intelligence nonsense. We're nowhere near that. But we talk about this, and I don't want to talk too much about AI. I try to take a break from it, but like it works really well. It's very powerful, and so many people I talk to don't even use it or they don't have a clue, right? They're using it as like a search
Mm,
engine, and I'm like, I've literally built things that make me money,
mm,
right? I have a company that build AI with AI is, kind of what I say now, and it's true for them. I mean, I still have to do some human stuff. I still have to do some code once in a while, but for the most part, the AI does the heavy lifting. That's
yeah.
tremendously powerful. We've talked about it on the podcast, right? Where if you want to build an app today, you can do it. There's a video
Mhm.
I put up a while ago, but we're gonna probably do another one in the future here, not too long from now. But
I was gonna say it has to be
um,
soon. Yeah.
I know, right? But the it's the converse of this then always becomes like fear and control. And that's really what I don't want to see. And I don't necessarily think social media needs to go away, but there's all sorts of ways to improve it. Like um, having an algorithm that doesn't engage you based on like certain dimensions like rage
Mhm.
or
The
politics, like.
extremities, yeah.
And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, like when Facebook first came out, it was just a chronological feed, right? It was Andrew says
What's
something
going on with your
interesting,
friends? Yeah.
Nathan said something interesting, you'll see Andrew's first, and then you'll see Nathan's. And that was basically it, right? There's a little
Mhm.
bit more to it than that. Like you had to be friends, but like, and then they started diving in, getting more details, building profiles about you, what you like and don't like. And then they saw ads, and then they start giving you this content that keeps you on the platform. So you're really mad about everything happening, or you're really happy about everything happening. And then you just get these extremes of viewpoints, which then pervades everything else. And that's, I mean, you look at our
Yep.
international politics and
That's where
even
we are
most
now.
states,
Yeah.
it's very polarized. And it's like, we're actually not that polarized. We're not, and we're not different. We're not really that different, right?
Mhm.
The differences we disagree on are actually quite minimal compared to other disagreements we could have with other countries, right? Like,
Right.
but it doesn't feel that way when you're constantly being drip fed all this nonsense. And everyone is on social media, and so everyone's privy to it.
Yep.
There's no filter in your mind unless you don't use it. That's why I think like you and I, we've talked a lot about it. Like I'm on it a little bit just to kind of keep a pulse on the technology. And then I use it for
Yeah.
promotion, but it's like it's not on my phone. I
Mm.
have to like seek it
Good.
out. And every time I'm on it, I'm like, this sucks.
Okay, I'm not missing much. Good.
No. But
Yeah,
I mean,
this
people
sucks.
want, yeah, comment like it's like just delete it and then deal with the withdrawal, right? It's like
Yeah,
caffeine withdrawal.
sometimes. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Sometimes the only way is through it. Yeah,
yeah, set your limit, with caffeine withdrawal, 1 cup of coffee in the morning, no afternoon coffee, no afternoon soda, right? Like,
yeah,
give yourself 20 minutes and then be intentional about it. Delete it off your phone, have to go to a browser or go to a bigger computer. Um, the limit thing is kind of hard because most people just, tap through, give me more time.
yeah, yeah. Or like there are some simple locking things, and people just know how to unlock them, right?
Yeah,
Or they
and I
block
would
it.
say, like, I don't know, I don't know if I've ever been addicted to anything, but um one thing I know that works, like I've worked in mental health, I worked in all sorts of other stuff, so I do have experience here, but um, find something that's more productive to do with the time. So instead of sitting on social
Yeah,
media for 30 minutes, removing that, now you have this big void in your life of whatever you were getting from social media, whatever it was doing for your psychology. You have to find something else that you can like throw in your pocket and do instead,
yeah.
right? Because that's the thing is like I see so many people. It's like you're in a line at the fucking farm or the market or whatever shopping place, whatever people do when they're not shopping on Amazon, and uh, everyone's on their phone and they're all watching, TikTok and Instagram, and it's like you got to find something to or just sit with yourself. But I feel like going from
People
like
can't do that.
massive stimulation to
Yeah,
like
to nothing. Yeah,
nothing
that's not. It's not.
doesn't work
It's
for
not
most
gonna.
people.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I just a random side note, but there's a fun experiment where I think people were given the option to either sit by themselves or shock themselves with like a small electric shock.
Oh,
Everyone
interesting.
just decides to shock themselves because it's so hard to sit by yourself with your own thoughts.
Interesting. I don't think it's that hard, but I do acknowledge, I think that it does take time to, like, undo that constant social media thing, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever it's doing for you, if it's entertaining, it's outrageous, it's crazy, like, whatever, like, you have to have the cognitive awareness to understand that
Right.
there's something happening there, and then you have to then find something to fill that vacuum that isn't as pervasive and addictive. So you don't wanna just switch out TikTok for Instagram or Instagram for YouTube,
Right. Yes. Good
right?
point.
Because that's just
Good
swapping
call out.
addictions. But, and if you're
Nor
on.
nor nor for social media for smoking or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and for a lot of times it's the downtime at lunch. It's, bring a book or like bring a magazine or do something, else, or if you're driving in the car, listen to this podcast or
What a
instead of
plug.
I hope you're not
Nice.
watching YouTube, but I've seen a lot of people on the highway lately watching would
How
look like
close are you
TikTok.
how close are you to these cars where you can see what they're watching?
Yeah, well, it's a normal freeway, right? But it's like, well, I guess for folk in Pacific Northwest, right, we have really nasty rush hours here.
Ah,
So,
okay.
yeah, any major city you're near, Portland, Seattle, Salem, Eugene, Olympia, if you hit it at the wrong time of day, you're in like 7 lanes of traffic and it's just
Fun.
standstill.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you look over and then people are driving. It's not like you're just stopped, like it's an accident,
Yes,
you
okay,
don't know when you're
I've
gonna
seen
go.
that
But
before. Yeah, I've seen that
yeah, but
before.
yeah, and
Yeah.
people will be like flicking or like the auto advance. It must be, I've never used TikTok, so I'm assuming it's TikTok, but like it just auto advances to the next thing, or maybe Instagram does it too. I don't really use that either. Like we have an Instagram for the podcast, but I don't kind of throw a video up when I think about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say once upon a time, I think you mentioned that you need to learn it to
Well,
to
I
put
thought
stuff
I
on there.
did, but I found out pretty quick that like the content either doesn't work
It
for
doesn't yeah, it doesn't
Instagram
fit on that platform.
or
I think that's right. I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or I don't want to understand the platform enough to put the content there.
Right, right. Yeah,
So I'm
I
not
remember
looking
that.
to like increase my time spend for the podcast. Sorry, folks. But the Instagram thing has actually been interesting because like some stuff hits really, really well, some stuff doesn't compared to like YouTube Shorts.
Mm.
Um, and the niches in Instagram seem to be much more pointed, and so the audience isn't necessarily broader, and I think it takes a little bit longer to find that. So I know a lot of
Mm.
people are trying to build their Instagram and it takes them forever. So I think it's like you have to kind of they kind of micro niche you, and then you can kind of spread over niches and eventually get an audience, but it's like really, really, really difficult to get like a
Yeah,
mass
yeah.
appeal.
Right, right. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, and I remember talking about now the Instagram audience is or the Instagram platform is not quite the place for podcasts,
Yeah,
I
it's not
guess.
popular with podcasts, period, from what
Yeah, yeah,
I can
exactly.
tell.
Right.
And whatever, like that's fine. But I actually have it mostly because like some people use it as like a messaging platform. So like for guests and
Yeah,
stuff
which
and
is
interviews, it's
oh, okay.
like a
Fair.
communications platform.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, let's cut it there before I
All
start
right.
ranting about AI.
It's always an inevitable. You always go there. All right. Have a
Okay,
nice
happy
weekend.
Friday. Yeah, you too.
Yes.
Happy